What's going on, YouTube? I'm AJ, and this is my gun review. This time, I have a bit of a special one for you guys, and I know I say that a lot, but this one's pretty exceptional. So, this is a Venom custom, and this is a pre-batch release. So currently you see Venom a lot from like the covert releases and the batches. This is going to be a full custom example from Venom, which predates the batch releases. This particular one is set up for limited optics, so it consists of a 5-inch island barrel, full-length dust cover built on a Chile wide frame, which I'll show you a little bit closer in the tabletop portion, Chile steel aggressive texture grip. The gun is finished in DLC and has rose gold highlights, and of course an SRO mounted up top with no backup iron sights. Now, spoiler alert, this gun's pretty exceptional. For a lot of people, Infinity is kind of viewed as the top of the pyramid when it comes to competition 1911s and 2011s. However, there are a couple custom builders that push even beyond Infinity. Dawn over at Venom being one of them, in my opinion. Now, this has been a rather exceptional gun to test because this particular example has over 17,000 rounds through it. And you could fool about anyone with that because the gun looks and feels essentially new. It's a pretty spectacular feat. Now, Dawn has been pretty well known in the competition community for quite a while. Over on Brian Enu's forum, posts under the screen name Donnie Glock, and he has been putting out just a plethora of information for many years. He's one of the sources I looked to for information when I was getting started, and is just a great member of the 2011 double stack and competition community. And on top of being a genuinely good dude, he also happens to produce some of the best pistols in the world. We'll get into it a little bit more in depth in the tabletop portion, but as I go through the pistol piece by piece, every bit of the gun has been exceptionally handled. And though in build philosophy terms, this gun isn't really my cup of tea. The gun weighs in at 54 ounces without a magazine, which is a full pound heavier than what I prefer my personal 2011s mounted with a light and an optic, no magazine. So, though it's not my style of 2011 per se, that doesn't make it any less excellent. And to the end that it is the style that the owner prefers, I don't know if a gun could be executed any better. So, with that said, let's head over to the tabletop and take a closer look at what you're getting. Alright, so a closer look at the Venom Custom. So for starters, we have a 5-inch island barrel. I like the texture over the top. We also have a partial tri-top. Crowned at the end, and using a Dawson toolless guide rod. The serration pattern is unique to it, provides decent traction. The slide is smooth enough in function that it is actually plenty. You can see the front sight dovetail has been filled in with a blank, likely at the owner's request. The barrel is finished in a rose gold along with the small parts. The rest of the gun is in a DLC. What really stands out with this pistol is going to be the frame. So you'll note that the frame itself is wider than the slide. That's a Chile extra wide frame. Also has some nice detail cuts on it. It's a cool piece. Kind of takes a CZ approach where you're adding a lot of weight to the front end. But for what the customer wanted, it certainly works. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this gun has more than 17,000 rounds with it. And yes, I spoke correctly. Not 1,700, 17,000. The slide to frame fit is absolutely perfect. There is no play in this gun. That is quite the feat. On top of that, the slide action is just spectacular. There's no disconnector hang-up. There's not a Marvel disconnector cut present, but the front edge of the stripper rail has been relieved with a 45-degree cut, which clearly works excellently with the well-dressed disconnector. Moving back to the optic mount, I'm not 100% certain what plate this is. It looks similar to an Atlas plate. It's not the lowest mount. Honestly, nothing really to write home about in its regard, but it's functional, and the optic never came loose on me. The slide stop looks to be an EGW piece in a government profile. As you guys know, it's not my favorite. It has a small relief cut underneath. It actually does not function as a slide stop as far as like lockback is concerned. Again, customer preference based on a competition gun, not a tactical gun. What I do like is how the edges of it have been knocked off. The piece has been dehorned. Just a sign of attention to detail. The thumb safety is an Atlas high-rise piece, tuned perfectly. I do like the Atlas piece. Nicely dehorned. No hot spots. No wiggle. Weighted perfectly out of the box. Going back to the beaver tail, it's a Chile piece. You can see along the edges here again, the hard edge has been knocked off, so it feels very nice in hand. It's also been polished, which feels nice. The ignition is an EGW lightweight kit. Again, very well tuned and finished in rose gold. The grip module is a Chile steel aggressive grip in the E2 pattern, so you have the extended backstrap. The E2 is always one of my favorite grips. Texture goes all the way up to the top. The aggressive texture, very grippy. The ergonomics are fantastic. Again, always one of my favorites. Because it's steel with a steel frame, it's a very heavy gun. So that's a bit of a matter of personal preference. But for what it is, it's certainly an excellent choice. The magwell is a Chile piece, styled similar to the Dawson Precision pieces. Very large. It has a relief cut for your palm. Unlike the Dawsons, it has a polymer insert. What I like about this is, one, you get a huge opening, but the polymer insert is more slippery than an aluminum or steel piece. And as it wears over time, you just replace the polymer piece for a new one, and you have a completely fresh opening. Again, maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing, but in terms of function, absolutely one of the best. It should be noted that with this magwell, my 130mm MBX Defender mags did not work. Also, my staccato magazines with the over insertion protection base pads did not work. I had to use 140mm magazines with low profile base pads to function in this gun. Moving up to the mag release, Chile piece, drilled and tapped with a Dawson checkered disc on it. Action's very smooth, no hang-ups. Appropriately weighted, a little on the light side, which is preferable for this. And that Dawson disc has always been one of my favorite applications for the mag release. Easy to hit, large enough without being too big and getting in the way of your grip. The trigger shoe itself is an Atlas Geppert piece. I believe this is going to be the short length. So no side to side play, no up and down play. He absolutely nailed it in that regard. Take up, very short. Come to a wall right here. Sub 2 pound break. That's your reset. That's your break. It is excellent. I also appreciate that it has not been done in a manner that compromises the speed of the hammer. so the mainspring is still reasonably firm despite the very light pull and brake. Overall, absolutely excellent execution. This is a fantastic firearm. But does it shoot? I don't say this lightly, but this is the single softest shooting, non-comped or ported 2011 I've used. Yes, it's heavy, but it makes good use of its weight, and its slide, despite being a 5-inch, is actually fairly lightweight courtesy of the tri-top and island barrel. It's worth noting I had to do most of my drills from a compressed ready with this gun. Because of the wide Chile frame, I simply didn't have any holsters that would accommodate it. That said, the gun tracked and split beautifully, and was 100% reliable with a wide variety of ammo. Over on the plate rack, I was able to work down to consistent sub-25 splits. Very impressive for a naturally aspirated pistol. So, final thoughts on the Venom Custom. This is the type of gun that I like to do reviews on. Higher round count, a gun that's been used a lot, and owned by a person who's already passionate about the hobby and has a distinct set of preferences. Like I said at the beginning, this gun doesn't really fit my model for preferences, but that does not make it any less excellent. What I can say of this gun is it is the softest shooting, non-comped or ported 2011 I've ever used. Now, a lot of that comes down to weight, but also a lot of that comes down to fit. And as I go through this gun, there's nothing that hasn't been touched or addressed or made better. In overall feel, it's going to be more similar to something like an Atlas than an Infinity, but it's like you crank that Atlas from 10 to 11. Now all the details have been addressed, and the gun really is as perfect as I've seen in its category. For me, the ultimate Venom would probably be something along the lines of his 4.6-inch quad port. That just works a little bit better with my ethos and what I want out of a 2011. But for what this gun is, wow. And on top of that, Don's reputation has been so solid as far as build quality, as far as product, as far as what he's giving the customer for such a long time now, that it's super easy for me to give the highest recommendation for his guns. So, with that said, please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.